The Keystone XL pipeline project was a proposed 1,179-mile, 36-inch diameter crude oil pipeline. This pipeline, with a capacity of 830,000 barrels per day, was an important project for the energy security of the United States and for strengthening the American economy. The pipeline was supposed to transport crude oil, extracted from tar sands, from Alberta, Canada to Nebraska in the United States.
The Sioux tribe is located in one of the most economically depressed places in the country. Tribal members make up 9% of South Dakota's population. Their small size has made them easy to ignore when it comes to decision-making in South Dakota. The Trans-Canada Keystone Pipeline would have ran through the Rosebud Sioux's tribal lands, violating their treaty of 1868, which gave them back the land known as the Black Hills. The Rosebud Sioux tribe was offended that their tribal elders were not appropriately consulted on the plans of the pipeline and were outraged at the lack of intergovernmental cooperation, being that they are recognized as a sovereign nation. The tribe sees themselves as victims of environmental racism. Environmental racism is the burden of environmental hazards on people of color, and it happens to these people because they are more or less invisible to the majority of the population. The tribe's main concern was that the pipeline would have crossed over one of North America's largest freshwater source, the Ogallala Aquifer. This aquifer provides water for a quarter of the nation's farmlands and keeps a majority of the tribe employed. Tribal members were concerned with the possible contamination of the aquifer, which would affect their livelihoods as well as other people living in North America. In fact, the State Department admitted that leaks are very likely to happen, leading the people to feel that an oil spill would be inevitable at some point in time. The Sioux tribe fears that America is growing too dependent on fossil fuels, and the reality of tar sand crude oil only makes sense in a world of expensive oil, which is not the world we may be living in the immediate and near future. The tribe wants to look for safe and responsible alternative energy resources to end pollution on Mother Earth and decrease the effects of global warming. The tribe feels that with alternative energy, America would be able to take steps to preserve the land, air, water, and way of life for future generations.
The current pipeline has wreaked havoc upon the environment. In order to extract the oil from the sand, all the forest and its vegetation must be cleared. The barren surface is then further decimated by the stripping of the topsoil and peat to reveal the oil-veined sand below. The sand is then separated at a plant where the product is sent to flow down the country to the coast, while the waste is left behind in the toxic tailing ponds. The land then becomes sour, and the vegetation from the harvested sands cannot grow back due to the high level of toxins within, rendering it useless.
Who gave them the permission to come through the reservation? The Lakota Nation. You're all Lakotas. Stand up for your rights. We have the greatest foundation in this world.
The Sioux tribe protested the building of the Keystone Pipeline through peaceful means. They collectively gathered together with the farmers and ranchers of the Cowboy Indian Alliance, CIA, and rode valiantly on horseback to Washington, D.C. to the National Mall, where they camped out for 5 days and held public speeches in the square. They also threatened to close the reservation's borders, declaring that the building of the pipeline over their lands consisted as an act of war because they are a federally recognized tribe, so the government has no say over what happens on their lands.
The Keystone Pipeline is a very controversial topic in a political sense, as the proposal failed to pass in the Senate by a single vote. All 45 Republicans voted in favor of it, but they were not able to meet the 60-vote requirement for it to pass. Certain politicians and residents of the states the pipeline crosses through, labor unions, the Canadian government, and a Canadian oil company called TransCanada all were in favor of developing the Keystone Pipeline XL. Proponents also claim that the Keystone Pipeline will help create more jobs and lower gas prices nationwide. Opponents voted against the bill due to uncertainty of how many jobs would be created and due to the various environmental concerns. These environmental concerns include higher greenhouse gas emissions, a higher possibility of oil spills occurring, and the pipeline crossing through many biologically unique regions, such as the Sandhills region in Nebraska. According to the Sioux, the Lakota people have always been stewards of this land, and they feel that it is imperative that they provide safe and responsive alternative energy resources not only to tribal members, but to non-tribal members as well.
to approve construction of the Keystone XL pipeline.
On this vote, the yeas are 59, the nays are 41. The 60-vote threshold having not been achieved, the bill is not passed.
The Rosebud Sioux Tribe's strong determination and ambition convinced the Senate to keep the pipeline out of their territory. They proved that they matter despite their small size and low economic status. If we fight against the impending sense of doom inflicted upon us by settlers, then there is hope for all Indigenous peoples to defend themselves against environmental racism and secure their rights for a healthy relationship with their land.